My parents completely discarded me and missed every moment of my life for my sister, so I purposely did not tell them that the unmovable event they were missing now was my wedding. So I have a younger sister, Mia. She is the definition of a woman child and a daddy girl, always complaining and expecting others to bow to her. Just overall, a whole. Ever since she was born, my parents fussed over her for everything. She's not special needs or had a traumatic birth or anything of the sort. She was just born, and my parents completely discarded me. My dad, especially. He went from a loving father to one of those girl dads people make fun of on the internet. My mother still showed me love and support, but she's always been too much of a coward to stand to my father and let me win at least once. The only one who stood up for me was my grandma, who always called my parents out on their bullshit and never liked my sister. I reminded her of her late husband, my grandpa, and we have a very special bond, but she lives on the other side of the country, and I could never see her often. Mia knows our dad prefers her and loves to shove it in my face. Because of this and her behavior, we've always been at odds. She's spoiled, a brat, and an awful human. I can't remember how often I got in trouble for things I did better than her or for things she framed me with. Her only talent are her football skills. She won a scholarship to a nice college out of state. My parents didn't spend a dime on my education because my fund had been used to cover expenses after a fire, just for me to discover years later that money was given to Mia to buy a car and a house. It was at the public university that I met Luna. She was the first person I was drawn to there. Of course, I met new people who are now my dearest friends. And thanks to them and Luna, who was my best friend for years before we got together, I managed to move out of my house. Luna and I are well known in our fields and have very good salaries. Now to the main issue. Luna proposed to me a year ago. We're very private people, so we didn't post it on social media or anything. And when I told my parents, they dismissed it with a "that's nice." I'm starting to think they downright didn't listen to me at all. We wanted a nice but simple ceremony and reception with our friends and relatives. Luna convinced me to invite my parents and sister, but they never responded to the invite. Whenever I visited and began to talk about my wedding without mentioning it was a wedding, my dad would always speak over me and about my sister's accomplishments and wild adventures. At one point, I got fed up with it and interrupted my dad to tell him that there was an event I was planning to organize whose date was unmovable. He told me they couldn't attend because my sister was playing the last game of the season that same day and wanted them to be there. Of course, this favoritism didn't surprise me. They missed my ballets, shows, and my high school and university graduation for things about her. At this point, I wanted to be petty. I told both my parents that it wasn't a problem to miss this event, purposely admitted that it was my wedding, and didn't insist further. Flash forward to a few weeks ago, I got married. It was perfect. My family, Luna family, and our friends were all there, and we had a blast. My grandma was happy to see me, and it was just perfect. My relatives repeated. They asked me why my parents weren't there with us. I was honest and said they had my sister's game to attend and couldn't attend. They gave me a few looks, and my grandma was visibly angry for a while, but, otherwise, nothing strange happened. After the reception, Luna and I left for our honeymoon and were phone-free for the whole trip. But once we got back, we discovered that a poop storm was welcoming us home. I turned my phone on and could not even unlock it before a storm of notifications popped up. Most of them were from my father and sister. Mia called me all sorts of nasty names and insulted me because one of my paternal aunts posted the photos of the wedding on Facebook and captioned it with a very obvious dig at my parents, especially my dad, for missing the wedding. The post went viral in my parents' community, and they've been publicly shamed for their mistreatment of me. It also turns out that my grandma personally visited my parents to go on a tirade to shame my mother, her daughter, to the point of tears. This seemed to be my mother's breaking point because she was so distraught for missing her only son's wedding and for her mother's disapproval that she finally rebelled against my dad and threatened divorce unless he made it up to me. I think that's why my dad has been spamming my phone with messages. At first, insulting and threatening, and then downright pitiful, full of begging and pity parties. Now I'm at home with my wife deciding how to approach the situation. Most of my relatives, even those I didn't invite to the wedding, reached out to apologize for what I went through and to claim they had no idea this was happening at home. Still, my dad's sisters and friends are belittling me for not telling my dad about the wedding because now he's inconsolable at the thought of having missed my wedding. I think he claims that to save face, but I'm unsure. The latest messages from my mother and father seem extremely saddened and hurt for missing my wedding. Now my family is divided on three fronts. The majority who is sticking by my side, my maternal aunt shaming me for hurting my dad's feelings, and my maternal grandparents who are adamant that I forgive my dad in light of his atonement. My best friends are telling me not to listen to them.